I promise this is one of the easiest preps you'll do all year. We are going to have 3 days of breakfasts, lunches, and dinners done in less than an hour. So grab your apron and let's get started by getting our ingredients out. We are going to start with breakfast today, which is going to be these super easy smoothies. With the end of summer approaching, I'm trying to get as many warm weather treats in as I can, so these smoothies are going to be perfect. And now the only prep work we need to do for our smoothies is to chop up some zucchini. I like to add in a little extra veggies into my breakfast or really any meal wherever I can. And with zucchini, I promise it is completely tasteless. You won't even notice that it's there. So I'm just going to chop it up and add the pieces to our smoothie jars. Then we're just gonna add some riced cauliflower. I'm using this frozen one from Costco. Now, if you only have whole pieces of cauliflower, that will totally work as well. Or if you wanted to just do one veggie instead of two, that's totally fine. You can choose between zucchini or cauliflower, or you can do both. And then we're also going to add some banana. I'm just slicing it up so that it fits better into the jars. And then we're gonna add some frozen fruit. You can really do any kind of fruit that you like here. You could even do fresh fruit if you prefer. And we're just gonna mix it up a little bit and do some different flavors in each jar. So I'm just adding some mixed berries into 2 of the jars, adding some frozen raspberries as well, and some frozen pomegranate. And then lastly, I'm gonna add in 1 tablespoon of ground flax to each jar. If you don't have ground flax, you could use chia seeds instead, or if you wanted to add some other kind of powders in here, like protein powder or omelet powder, that's totally fine as well. Now for these smoothie jars, I do have to point out that the way I've previously shown them in other meal prep videos is by blending a large batch of smoothie all at once and then adding the already blended smoothie into 3 different jars, adding those to the freezer, and then you can pop them out whenever you want. So an advantage to doing it that way is then, of course, you only need to wash your blender 1 time, whereas we're gonna have to wash the blender every morning that we make a smoothie with these. But an advantage to making it this way is that you can add different fruit to each jar and therefore make different flavors very easily. And I know not everybody likes to do the pre-blended way, so this is just an alternative to that. Now, just a little side note here, if you want to do this prep but you're worried you don't have enough jars, you absolutely do not have to do this prep in jars. I think that this kind of got popularized because it's very aesthetically pleasing. But if you would rather use a Tupperware, that will totally work. I really like these wide mouth Tupperwares. I'll link a similar one in the description box. But even if you don't have something like this, you can just use a regular square or rectangle storage container. It absolutely does not have to be jars. It's whatever's convenient for you. So when you're ready to make your smoothie, just go ahead and grab one of these jars out of the freezer, add all of the contents into your blender, and then add either water or any kind of plant milk that you like. And I like to add my liquid right into the empty jar and just shake it around a bit. And that way, if there's any lingering flaxseed or powders or anything, you'll be sure to get it out. For our lunch prep, we are going to make easy peasy salads. And for this one, we're actually going to start with the dressing. So today I'm making a red wine vinaigrette. I actually have a full recipe video with this dressing and a bunch of other oil-free dressings. I will link it in the description box down below. But we are just gonna start with a 1/3 cup of red wine vinegar, 1 tablespoon of stone ground mustard, a tablespoon of maple syrup, and 1 clove of minced garlic. And then to that mixture, we're just going to add 1/3 cup of veggie broth, or you could sub with water or aquafaba. I just like the veggie broth because it gives a little bit more flavor. And you could always add back in a tablespoon of olive oil here if you're not completely oil-free but you want to try reducing your calories. That's a really good way to have a similar taste without the same amount of calories as there would be for a whole 1/3 cup of olive oil. So then we're just going to add our dressing into our 3 jars. And now, in order to make sure your salads do not turn out soggy, the next ingredient that you want to add to your jars is going to be something that you want to soak up the flavor of the dressing. So you could either use beans here or a grain or something like a pasta if you're doing a pasta salad. I'm going to use chickpeas at the bottom, and like I said, those will soak up that red wine vinaigrette and give them a lot of nice, delicious flavor. Then on top of that, we are just gonna add some cubed sweet potato. This sweet potato has just been roasted in the oven at 400 degrees for about 45 minutes. Then we are gonna add some crumbled baked tofu. This tofu is delicious. I will link this recipe in the description box. You've gotta try it out. Even if you're not a fan of tofu, this version is so, so good. then totally optional, but I like a little bit of vegan feta in mine. And then we're gonna prep our veggies. So I happen to have some veggies that are already washed, but if you don't, this part would only take you about 5 or 10 extra minutes to wash all your veggies together. And then we're just gonna give them a quick chop. You could actually chop all of them now if you wanted to, and then just store the leftovers in a Tupperware. So for this salad, we're just gonna chop some baby tomatoes, celery, cucumber, and I'm going to grate some carrot as well. And then for the very top of our salad, of course, we're gonna need some lettuce. So I'm just adding in a little bit of butter lettuce to the top of these. So again, stacking your salad jars like this with all of the wetter ingredients at the bottom is going to make sure that you don't have soggy vegetables when you do go to eat this salad, because this is gonna sit in the fridge for a couple days. So again, we just wanna keep those veggies at the top, and that way it'll stay perfectly fresh in your fridge. When you're ready to eat your salad, we are just gonna pour everything out, mix it up, and it's ready to go. Now, if you're interested in learning exactly how to meal prep like this on your own, I have great news for you. The Let's Eat Plants meal prep course is officially open right now, and I will teach you step by step the fundamentals of how to meal prep just like this. So if you've been wanting to save time and money in the kitchen, and let's face it, have the option of healthy, ready to go meals right at your fingertips, you've got to check out this course. I will leave all of the links in the description box and the pinned comment down below, but make sure you check it out as soon as possible because it is only available for a few more days. For our dinner prep, we are going to make a simple noodle soup. So again, we want the wet things at the bottom of the jar here. Now I'm using this better than bouillon broth paste, and I'm gonna combine it with a little bit of this chili paste, which is totally optional. Now, if you don't have something like better than bouillon paste and you only have regular veggie broth, this can still work. Basically, you will just leave out the broth part at the bottom, and you will just heat up your broth at the time that you're ready to make your soup jar, which we will get into later. So if you don't have any better than bouillon broth paste or miso paste or something like that for the bottom of your jar, just skip this step. So I'm just adding about a tablespoon to each of these jars with the better than bouillon broth paste, and also a little bit of the chili paste. And then again, we're just gonna need a knife and cutting board to prep some of the veggies. I'm just cutting up another baked sweet potato and shredding some more carrot. And then I'm just adding some frozen edamame beans for some protein. You could also use cubed up tofu here. I don't know if you guys know, but tofu is ready to be eaten as is. You're basically just heating it when you cook it. So if you prefer, you could do little cubes of tofu. And then on top of the edamame, I'm just adding some green cabbage, and then a little bit of frozen corn. And now just add in the sweet potato and the carrot. And then lastly, we're going to add some dry noodles on the top. Now, not all dry noodles are gonna work here. You definitely want something that is quick cooking, like a very thin vermicelli. I'll link this brown rice version that I'm using in the description box. Now, if you don't have any vermicelli or you don't wanna use it, you have a couple options. You can definitely completely leave it out. You don't need to add any noodles into this soup. Or if you have another kind of soup noodle that you prefer to use, you can definitely use that instead. What I would recommend is to just cook up a big batch of those noodles and just cook them slightly al dente, which means to stop them from cooking about 1 minute before you would otherwise. If you do cook them all the way, they just might end up a little bit soggy and are more likely to break apart. So I usually recommend just stop them from cooking about 1 minute before you normally would, and go ahead and drain them, plunge them in a cold water bath to stop them from cooking further. And that way you have a ready to go batch of noodles, and you can just add some into the top of each of these jars. Of course, that will take a little bit of extra effort because you will need to cook up that extra batch of noodles, but it's definitely an option. But for our jars, we're just gonna use this brown rice vermicelli. Now, this did get a little bit messy, so just be mindful of how you're breaking apart these noodles. There's probably a better way than what I did here, but I think this is gonna work okay. And there we have it, our soup jars are now ready as well. Now when you're ready to go ahead and eat your soup, I have actually seen people pour their boiling water right into the jar. I personally wouldn't recommend that. I think it's just way too easy to crack. So again, we're gonna dump all of the contents into a bowl, and then we're just gonna boil some water and add that on top. Stir it up a bit so that our soup broth dissolves and so that our noodles get soft. Now, if you don't have any better than bouillon or miso paste at the bottom of your jars, then what you would want to do instead is just to heat up some veggie broth. You can just quickly heat it on the stovetop until it's boiling and then pour that over your bowl instead of boiling water. And I have to say, the best part of a meal prep is having everything done. Now we have breakfast, lunch, and dinner sorted for the next 3 days. And if healthy eating has been on your mind lately, perhaps you want to get back in the groove during fall, but you're not really sure where to start, check out this video. This is how I personally lost 20 pounds without exercise, and I hope it will be helpful to you as well.